Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into the extremely controversial new U.S. dietary guidelines that were released on January 7th, 2026. Okay, let's unpack this. We decided to do this deep dive because a learner actually wrote to us, and they were just in shock. They called the change on red meat and animal fats unbelievable.
Yeah.
So our mission is to understand why this happened and really to apply some critical thinking to how public health policy gets made.
Exactly. And the whole controversy, really the entire academic debate, it all centers around one thing you can see immediately, the inverted food pyramid. What's so fascinating is how a single graphic, just a simple picture, can signal such a massive departure from, well, from all accepted nutritional science.
And that graphic really is the bombshell, isn't it? Because we all know the standard food pyramid. The wide base means eat more, whole grains, vegetables. The narrow tip at the top means eat less.
Precisely. Now, this new document asks you to just flip that whole idea. In their new inverted pyramid, red meat is at the wide base, suggesting you should eat more of it. And whole grains, which have always been the foundation, they're pushed all the way to the narrow tip. It's a complete reversal.
That's just, it goes against everything we've been told for decades. It's no wonder it felt like a red light was going off.
Oh, absolutely. The move was so jarring that experts immediately questioned it. Professor Lin, for instance, didn't mince words. He called it political monkey business.
Wow. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, because the reaction from major public health bodies was, well, it was just confusing. The American Heart Association, the AHA, they put out a statement the same day, January 7th.
And it was an exercise in contradiction. In the first paragraph, the AHA welcomed the guidelines. They actually praised the supposed emphasis on increasing whole grains and limiting saturated fats.
Wait a minute. How could they praise limiting saturated fats when the pyramid itself is pushing more red meat and presumably more whole-fat dairy?
That is the million-dollar question. It's like they were praising the document's introduction while ignoring the actual recommendations. Because in the very next paragraph, they did a complete 180. They suddenly expressed major concern that the advice on red meat would cause people to eat too much saturated fat.
So they praised and then condemned it in the same statement.
Yes. They even went on to encourage low-fat dairy, which directly contradicts the new guidelines' emphasis on whole-fat dairy.
Yeah.
It's a profound failure of coherent messaging.
Okay, so if the public health institutions were confused, let's shift to the academic world. What were the scientists saying?
The scientific community was much clearer. The MIT Technology Review came out the next day and said the guidelines ignored decades of scientific research. Plain and simple. They quoted Gabby Hedrick from George Washington University, who flat out called the recommendations very harmful.
So no ambiguity there.
None at all. And Harvard University weighed in that same day. Assistant Professor Deirdre Tobias voiced serious concern about a politically motivated deviation. And this is the key point. The criticism wasn't just about food choices. It was about the process. She pointed to a lack of transparency and a lack of a scientific basis for the changes.
So if we connect the dots, the academic consensus seems to be that this wasn't an honest scientific disagreement. It was that the process itself was broken, leading to a conclusion that the final document was, well, politically motivated.
That's exactly it. It lacked a clear scientific basis, and that's what alarmed so many people.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? I think this deep dive really shows that even official sources like government advice have to be viewed with a critical eye. When you see something that looks fundamentally wrong, like an upside-down pyramid, that's a signal to ask how that recommendation was made, not just what it is.
And that leads to a final, maybe provocative, thought. Given the backlash and the strong academic criticism that this was politically motivated, it raises a really important question. When public health advice deviates this sharply from science and transparency, how does that affect our trust? Not just in these guidelines, but in all nutritional guidance moving forward. Something to think about.